Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
Doing all right, Kevin? Happy winter to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, mine is a little different than yours. Um, I will apologize right now to you and our viewers. You may at some point during this hear hammers and saws. Our next door neighbor is 7 months into a home remodeling project progress. They've got it. They've done about 2 months worth of work. I've learned so much about general contracting, especially who I would never hire. Yeah, it's just it's a
Well,
it's
hopefully it's good quality and it's good for
uh
your
it's awful. Anyway,
your
so if
home
you hear
value.
noise, that's what's going on. So a bunch of things I want to talk to you about today. One is that Amazon released its numbers last week, and for the first time, their annual revenue surpasses that of Walmart. And I can remember as long as you and I have been doing this, you were saying it's going to happen like this, and it will happen. Now, it may only be temporary because Walmart's numbers come out, annual numbers come out in a couple of months, and they could be higher. But we don't know, right? But
Yeah.
really, really close. So I think it took longer than we expected it to take for Amazon to pass Walmart by maybe a couple of years. But I think, if anything, that speaks to two things. One, the way COVID, whatever weird things COVID did to the marketplace,
Right.
because it helped Amazon, it also helped Walmart. And the other thing is just that Doug McMillon has been a lot more aggressive and ambitious than we might have expected 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah. No,
your thoughts about
I would I would say that when as they were taking advantage of the or leveraging their e-commerce investments and also just kind of a new kind of reinvigorated emphasis on innovation and growth generally. You saw their annual growth rates tick up a couple points. And that matters a lot. It's percentages versus percentages, but and the curves are actually dollars versus dollars. So it does make sense that staved off this passing for a while. And of course, Amazon's number is a combination of their businesses, right? So it also includes their cloud business and whatnot. However, conversely, if you look at Amazon's gross merchandise value, right? So the retail sales that they're responsible for powering,
it. Mhm.
that's substantially higher than Walmart's.
Yeah. And the other thing that happened during the period of time is that Amazon had a renewed emphasis on profitability, right? So they were cutting things at a time, right? When
Yeah.
Walmart, and they were still, listen, they were still investing a ton, but it wasn't quite at the same rate as they were at another point in their history.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the dollars, the investment dollars relative to the retail volume, back in from 15 years ago to 5 years ago, was really high. And I think they're being a lot more, they're being a lot more deliberate in their investment strategy over the last few years. But still, no shortage of dollars going in there, but there's a lot less speculation. I think seemingly a lot less speculation than there was.
Well, speaking of Amazon's investment strategy, that's the second thing we wanted to talk about today. So Amazon's has said when they released their numbers that they've got $100 billion in capex slated for 2025 this year, and most of it being devoted to AI. And here's the CNBC story. Amazon said Thursday it plans to boost its capital expenditures to $100 billion in 2025. The capex figure exceeds last year's spending of $83 billion. They've been rushing to invest in data centers, networking gear, and hardware to meet vast demand for generative AI, which has exploded in popularity, and they've introduced a flurry of AI products. That's a lot of money. And to put it in context, it was interesting. Amazon released their number last week. Um, just before you and I got on here, I saw a story that talked about all the money that the country, France,
Yeah,
is going to invest in AI, and it's $100 billion. So Amazon and France are basically investing the same amount of money, which
that's funny.
which is interesting. Uh, but the other thing is that it's interesting to me because this is all happening, just weeks after we heard about DeepSeek. right? The Chinese version of AI, which is, they say, can be done for a lot less money, requires a lot less investment. Now, there's an argument that DeepSeek may be the Walmart of AI as opposed to ChatGPT, which is
Hmm.
the Tiffany of AI, right? So there's a lot going on there. But it's also interesting to me, there's a really long way of posing the question. Apple has got, their strategy has been not to invest as much money in AI as some of their brethren in tech,
Yep.
but rather to ride on the coattails of the people who are making the investments, and instead they're going to just focus on use cases, right? They're going to focus on platforms that other people's AI may help to,
Hmm.
and therefore they're just not going to invest in the same still investing a ton, but not in the same stuff. I just wanted to kind of, so much more about this than having run tech companies and
Yeah.
understanding AI a lot better than I do. I just wanted to get your take on that, because I think a lot of our audience is being presented with options, opportunities for AI, and are probably trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in that.
Yeah. Sorry, it's only a 47-minute question.
Yeah, that's okay. Everybody go grab a cup of coffee and come back and we'll discuss that. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, AI is clearly, I mean, it's been a thing for a while. It's been a thing that companies should have been paying attention to and should have been putting some dollars toward, for a while. So this notion that, uh-oh, AI is here and I got to dive in.
Right.
I mean, if you haven't done any spending, you got to spend. Like you have to have an AI strategy. And that AI strategy, starts at your customer and works backward, right? I mean, it's how you interact with the customers, how you personalize experience to customers, based on the data and the interactions with that customer, and of course those aggregated, interactions and how they help, the customer experience be smarter and more tailored to that customer, back through your store experiences, back through your supply chain, back through how you wire the company and how you source. There's just so much opportunity for AI to make everything you do smarter and better. So to not have a strategy is beyond foolish at this point. A company like Apple that says, I'm going to temper my investment in AI and rely on others, as long as that's actually a strategy and not an excuse for not investing, then that's probably okay. Like that can be your strategy. You don't have to be the creator of all these things AI, but you certainly have to be the applier of things AI. And for Apple, that may work very well for their proposition to their customer. In other forms of retail and in the food business, um, there are plenty of providers out there that do provide a bunch of AI capabilities. So you don't necessarily need to be investing in developing your own kind of core AI and core AI models, which are very expensive. But you better be investing in some R&D using AI tools and creating customer experiences and other, based on AI. I mean, that's absolutely critical. So you do need to have, a portion of your R&D budget,
Right.
dedicated to this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, kind of also just putting into perspective that $100 billion like investment level from Amazon. I mean, even if half of it's going to foundational models that will never touch retail, which is probably too much because most stuff they do touches retail in some way, and half of it goes to to touch retail, and then you add to that these massive capital investments that big players like Walmart and Costco are making. You're talking about between 50 and $100 billion across just these few retailers, in R&D that's going to impact the retail experience in a year. How many retailers are bigger than $100 billion in the world? Right? Not many. I mean, there are, but not many.
Well, think about, in just a couple of weeks, we're going to be at a week and a half or so, we're going to be at National Grocers Association. Now we're doing the tech track. This kind of stuff is going to come up. I got to believe that at some level, these independent retailers hear a number like $100 billion and they go, their heads are ready to explode. Let's go, what do? I can't even play in that game. And
Not at that level for sure,
right,
right? But I think what you can do though, whether you're, an independent that's going to be at NGA, you're a regional that was at Midwinter, or you're a national or multinational that was at that was at that was also at Midwinter. You have to have an investment strategy. It has to have a big AI element in that, but you have to have an investment strategy, that enables you to move the needle with your customers. Um, it is harder the smaller you are, but there are ways to do it. I think that I don't want to let too much of the cat out of the bag now, but many of the retailers that are listening have been in these conversations with me and with others. So there's going to be more that's going to come out around a new potential industry investment model. More to come on that. I don't want to say too much yet.
which we will
Um,
talk about. We will be talking about at NGA, and we'll subsequently talk about here.
yes, we'll talk about NGA, we'll talk about it here, and so it will be more widely known, within a few weeks.
Right.
But there is an investment model out there that can help retailers that aren't Amazon or Walmart, invest in and compete with to try to, leverage the type of scale that is possible, by unlocking some of these new investments
You
or
just
making
mentioned
some of these new investments, unlocking capabilities.
right. You mentioned retailers that were at FMI Midwinter again, week and a half or 2 weeks ago or so. Um, and I'm curious. So you hit the trifecta, right? In January and February, you did CES, you did NRF, and then you did FMI Midwinter. And we've
Yes.
talked here. We've done conversations here talking about NRF and CES. And I'm curious the kinds of priorities and focus that you saw at NRF and CES, were they reflected were they the same kinds of priorities being discussed at FMI Midwinter? Because listen, we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, supermarket retailers' priorities are not the same as much of the rest of the technology world and much of the rest of the retail world that is not food focused.
No,
You
that
see,
that
you're
is
still behind.
true. Yeah, they can fall out of sync, and I would say, there have definitely been times in the past where, CES was furthest out in front, then NRF was close on their heels, and then FMI was maybe not quite as close. I would say overall, though, I applaud the food industry, applaud FMI, applaud their leadership. Um, I think that there's been a real recognition of the importance of innovation, application of new technologies, in the industry and in customer experiences. So there were frankly a lot of similarities, between them, and a lot of FMI leadership was at CES. They were at NRF, so they're not afraid to get out there and learn, and help shape their agenda for the industry. So yeah, I think a lot of common themes. Clearly, AI was a massive theme across everything. That was the largest meta theme, across everything, and it was, as we said, from creating personalized experiences. NRF had a fair amount about um, bringing AI and VR and AR into the store, and enhancing customer experiences there. And then just lots of applications of AI all the way back through, your merchandising and marketing systems, advertising, of course, and personalization and supply chain and sourcing.
So based on the conversations at FMI Midwinter, what is the primary use case they're seeing for AI when you hear people talking about it? What are they
Yeah,
focused?
I think the primary use case for AI still remains personalization. I think that you heard that theme throughout. We have the ability to use data to be more, focused and more precise in how we reach an individual customer. Well, that's not new news, right? Because, having customer purchase data and using that to market to them, that's been around for a while. Um, but the level that we're seeing, with AI and how that can impact it, I think is becoming clearer and bigger. That wasn't the only place that AI, that I observed AI. being in the discussion at midwinter, but I think it was probably the most prevalent.
When they think about personalization, is data analysis a significant part of that? Because I'm still astounded by the degree to which, at least listen, I'm not familiar with everybody. I don't have my fingers in everybody's pie, but the degree to which retailers don't do so much data analysis that they're able to talk to their customers differently.
Yeah.
And so when they think personalization, are they thinking data analysis and then implementation, or are they thinking about personalization in a different way?
Well, they should be thinking about the former, and I think many are. One of the themes at Midwinter that I was actually involved in a project between, I'd almost call it an initiative between FMI and Accenture, was a project we called the Daunting Data Dilemma. And I won't go into it here today, but maybe we'll do another conversation on it sometime. But the reason this was something that Accenture and FMI felt it was important that we take on is the recognition that the amount of data being produced is doubling every 3 years or less than 3 years.
Right.
So you think about the exponential curve that that's on, right? And you think about, you know, organizations' ability to quickly digest, analyze, and ultimately deploy, capabilities off of that, or actions, right, off of that data. It becomes more and more daunting as the data piles up, right? It requires so much in so many levels. And out of that research came 6 key themes that we presented, and then we also, set the table for kind of further industry initiatives around around measurement data, and ways to best leverage the data to help the industry serve its customers. So kind of a long answer to how retailers are thinking about it. But I will say through the work that we did, we interviewed roughly 30 retailers, manufacturers, and kind of brokers and service providers. And we also then did an industry-wide survey. And I think that the results definitely showed that this was both an analysis, but then use of that analysis in serving the customer.
So they're at least they're cognizant of the shortcomings of the industry has at this point, but they're
Yeah,
focused on addressing it.
I think so. I think that they recognize the need to address. I wouldn't necessarily say the focus is there yet, but there's a recognition of that. Again, we presented twice at Midwinter, so it was a high priority for FMI. I would encourage folks to go on FMI's site and download. It's a free download, but download the report, and then and just look for more to come on industry initiatives there.
Yeah.
It's a really important thing that we tackle. To enable the industry to basically not be crushed under its own mountain of data.
Well,
And if we really can better leverage that data and unlock experiences, could be a massive win.
well, this is a tease. The daunting data dilemma coming soon to the innovation conversation.
Exactly.
All right. Well, listen.
No.
Thank you, sir. I will if we don't do another one of these before NGA, I will see you in Las Vegas. And
Perfect.
stay well.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.